Matt Sager with a couple of new Walking Dead developments today. Walking Dead, perhaps the most relevant TV show for our times, something that when it debuted about 10 years ago seemed absolutely unfathomable, and now kind of feels like the regular day-to-day life, which is ironic because our current predicament, this global pandemic, has halted production and is stalling stuff like Walking Dead Season 11, Fear the Walking Dead Season 6, and the upcoming much-hyped Walking Dead The World Beyond. But life goes on. Even in the zombie apocalypse, things haven't ground to a complete halt. Over the weekend, Buzzfeed hosted a little roundtable for an article interviewing producers, writers, and the like of various TV shows, including LaToya Morgan, a consulting producer on The Walking Dead. She says that the show's writers are working from home using Zoom, and that it's actually making writing a bit easier than it had been in a real live writer's room, that the virtual writer's room is, if anything, more productive. What this all says about the future of television production and writing, at least for The Walking Dead, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But she says of Zoom, quote, "I think Zoom offers a great opportunity to check in with people visually, seeing everyone's faces, even if it is in those Brady Bunch boxes. You're like, okay, we're safe. We're all going to get through this together." So it's reassuring in a sense. She said that these online Zoom meetings typically include 6 to 9 writers, last about 4 or 5 hours with some breaks in between, which again is less time than they would have spent in a real writer's room. She does go on to say, quote, "Of course, this is all disruptive in certain ways, but at the end of the day, we're still able to do our jobs. We are tremendously fortunate and lucky that we're able to do that, and any burden or small technological glitches that we have really pale in comparison to the work that's being done by all our essential workers, our doctors, our nurses, our mail carriers, so we're able to endure." And of course, that includes the work being done by her production team, her writing staff, etc. So The Walking Dead, when it will actually air, any of these projects, The Walking Dead proper, Fear the Walking Dead, The World Beyond, that's not certain, but production, writing, that's all still going on, just via Zoom. And that's comforting to know, and strangely appropriate, given that we're kind of living a zombie apocalypse ourselves. It's nice that certain evergreen things like zombies, they're still in production. We will have our fix of The Walking Dead in time. Speaking, by the way, of The Walking Dead and Zoom, AMC released several Zoom backgrounds 2 weeks back, including several from The Walking Dead. They also have some for Better Call Saul, Killing Eve, Dispatches from Elsewhere, Ride with Norman Reedus, NOS 482, Brockmire, and a couple of others. You can check all those out at a link I'll put in the description. Meanwhile, creator Robert Kirkman has had to file a lawsuit against a mobile game developer. You may have, at one time or another, played the mobile game The Walking Dead March to War. That was licensed to and created by a developer called Disruptor Beam. And apparently they're delinquent on payments to Robert Kirkman, who's suing them for $690,000 in damages. This all stems from a deal they made with Kirkman in 2014 to produce the mobile app for Android and iOS, but the company shut it down in less than 2 years. Haven't given an actual official reason as to why they chose to shut the game, but there is a rumor that it went offline. This was in 2019 because it just wasn't generating enough in-game revenue. You know, all these pay-to-play mobile games, nobody likes them. Whether they're The Walking Dead, EA Blizzard's various attempts at online monetization. These games are very little fun because you've got to pay as you play. If you want to get anywhere, if you want to win, if you want to progress, it's all very fun for a few minutes, and then they start asking for microtransactions. That was the case clearly with March to War, The Walking Dead game. That said, it's all well and good if they want to shutter the game, but Disruptor Beam never made payments to Robert Kirkman, payments that they owed. So RK LLC, Kirkman's company, has filed a lawsuit against them, trying to recoup that money. This is all from TMZ. The quote from the article is, "In the docs obtained by TMZ, Kirkman's company says the OG terms they came to with DBI were annual payments of $500,000, which would run for 4 years after the release of the game. The game was released in August 2017. Kirkman and company claimed the video game company made payments, sometimes late, but they came, until this month when the company allegedly told him it was stopping payments, quote, until further notice." I love when companies do that. Like, yeah, we're just going to put this on hold. I've had that happen myself as a contractor, an employee, not going to name names. Back to the clip from TMZ, it goes on to say, Kirkman claims this left a $190,000 balance for the rest of this year, in addition to another $500,000 for next year. Kirkman's company now wants a judge to step in and force them to pay at least $690,000 in damages. Sounds appropriate to me. I know Kirkman is rolling in money, but it's money he's earned, money he's owed. And in this case, it seems like a very clear-cut case of a deadbeat mobile developer who just decided they could go delinquent on their payments because, hey, it's Robert Kirkman. He's a millionaire. He'll be fine with it. He's a busy guy. As to why they stopped paying Kirkman, I have my theories, and they're the same as TMZ's, which is that their business came to a grinding halt and they weren't prepared for it because of the pandemic we're all facing. All of this, again, ironic because anyone involved in the Walking Dead zombie apocalypse should be thinking about pandemics that make the world grind to a halt at all times, but really none of us actually thought this was going to happen. It also doesn't really hold water because most mobile game companies, like most tech companies, have their employees operating from home. They were, if anything, more prepared for this than most companies. They were already using Zoom. They already had remote workers. They were as equipped for this kind of situation as any kind of company could or would or should have been. So it'll be interesting to see how the lawsuit progresses, whether a judge steps in and simply demands the payments to Kirkman, which, based on the limited knowledge I have, seems like the obvious, correct thing to do. Of course, I'm just reading from TMZ. That's rarely the complete story. It is always tempting to sympathize with a little guy, this small mobile developer, in the face of a cajillionaire like Robert Kirkman, but Robert Kirkman is the definition of a self-made man. About 15 years ago, he was a comic book grunt, being abused by Marvel and DC, pitched this wacky idea to Image Comics, and the rest is kind of history. The Walking Dead became this huge comic hit, which in turn became a huge TV hit. And, this happened with me when I got a job in radio after toiling in the trenches for many years. People love to go, you're an overnight success. What did you do to earn the success, this money that you've got? What's your resume? What are your credentials? And Kirkman's credentials are he built himself up from nothing, and now people are trying to stiff him. Again, this according to TMZ. So I'm thrilled that the show is continuing apace, that the writers are all in connection with each other and the producers. And if all this business about the game March to War is correct, and mobile developers, certainly mobile game microtransaction developers, are not known as a super credible bunch, I would hope that Kirkman gets any restitution he's owed from them sooner than later, with as little hassle as possible. This is life in the real-life zombie apocalypse, and the fictional one. As soon as I get those dates, by the way, for Walking Dead Season 11, Walking Dead The World Beyond, and Fear the Walking Dead Season 6, I'll be sure to announce those as well. For now, thank you for your viewership and or listenership. Please subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, leave reviews if you're watching on YouTube. Similarly, if you're listening on a podcast network, I'd love it if you subscribe there, left me some reviews and stars. All of my social media info and ways you can donate to the podcast and participate will be included in the episode description. Talk to you soon.